This is the Five Lights Podcast. Yes, it is. Welcome along to episode 15 of the Five Lights Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Herrick, and we have got a jam-packed show for you today. There's so much news to get to, so much has happened since the last race in Barcelona, and we've got a race to look forward to this weekend in Monaco. So without any further ado, let's get going. And that was our theme tune, supplied by bensound.com, your one-stop shop for all your music multimedia needs. Now, I need my brother, my compadre, to come along. If you've never listened to the show before, don't worry, it's not just me who does this. I have my brother who comes along to help me. What shall we say about him this week? If you've listened to our advert, you know that I say quite a bit about him. I compare him to many a person. But this week he's going to be the Christian Horner to my Bernie Eccleston. Ben, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Busy week. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How do you like that analogy?
I've received better, to be honest.
Wow.
I'll let you off because I assume you were creating that off the top of your head.
Yeah, I usually come prepared, but I was a bit scrabbled today. A bit scrabbled. Lots going on. Lots going on at work.
I think I'd probably rather be Horner than Eccleston. So obviously not financially, but
sure. Well, you get Jerry Halliwell.
Right. No one wins then in that scenario.
No. Oh, right. And I get to be a short little man, but with lots of money.
You
and basically, I'm saying that you're going to be my predecessor, effectively. More or less. So, shall we get into the show then, Ben? We've got lots to get into.
Let's stop.
Let's do that.
Pickering,
right.
yeah.
So, lots of news to get into. Let's crack on with some housekeeping from the last race in Barcelona. And the Saints Kvyat investigation. Makes it sound like it's some sort of police detective work there, Ben. What's happening? Can you update us?
Yeah, well, we had the debate in the review of Barcelona in our last podcast, and we didn't know at the time if Saints had been penalised for his turn 1 collision with Daniel Kvyat, which was on the last lap. Saints overtook Kvyat for 9th place. Many people thought he'd be penalised, and he wasn't. So he keeps the 9th place and keeps the Spanish fans happy.
It does indeed. We were a bit and ahhing about whether it should be a penalty or not, but no penalty, so that's fair enough. Let's move on to the next one, and a little bit of a highlight for Sky Sports people over here with the Hamilton v Henry football match that took place for charity.
Yeah, Hamilton decided that he wanted to do a football match, 5-a-side, as you say, for charity. It was Arsenal Legends, which was Hamilton's team, versus Sky Sports, which was Henry's team. So Hamilton and Henry were the captains. Hamilton actually, the game kicked off less than 24 hours after the race had even started, I believe. So Hamilton wasn't exactly fresh. But Hamilton's team consisted of, obviously, Hamilton, Robert Perez, Ray Parler, Sol Campbell, and I forget the goalkeeper's name. I think his surname was Tubes.
Oh, yeah, from Sky Sports, yeah.
And Henry's team obviously consisted of Thierry Henry, Paul Merson, Jamie Carragher, Jamie Redknapp, and Carlo Guidacini, who doesn't actually work for Sky Sports, but who had to fill in late notice.
And Tubes does, so I don't know why they couldn't have just swapped them round, but hey-ho.
Hey-ho. But Guidacini never used to play for Arsenal, which was Hamilton's team.
That's also very true. Neither did Tubes, though. Which is,
we'll forget about that. It was a good game. Hamilton was actually pretty good. Didn't let anyone beat him up, although people tried. He was quick. He won the ball. He actually was a pretty good playmaker. Finished 5-5. Went to penalties, in which Thierry Henry's team won 4-3.
I've got to say 2 things to take away from this briefly. One, Henry still got it. He's still a phenomenal footballer. And 2, how fit, not like in that way, but how physically fit is Lewis Hamilton to have been racing in Barcelona and then less than 24 hours later, after flying across back to the UK, to be fit enough to play a football match. Obviously, it wasn't a high-intensity football game, but hats off to him. That's he's a great guy, Hamilton.
Yeah, well, Henry didn't retire that long ago. I think last season he retired. Obviously, he wasn't playing high-level football. But yeah, he's still pretty good, and I wouldn't mind having him on my team.
No,
But yeah, the thing that it annoyed me slightly is because everyone was saying that Hamilton's going to get beaten up, he's going to get pushed off the ball really easily, because I think he's a racing driver, he's small, light, and tiny. He is small and he is light, but Formula One drivers are extremely strong because they have to be to withstand all the G-forces from driving a Formula One car. So I wasn't actually surprised by how physical he was. I was expecting it because he is and he will be so strong, and all other Formula One drivers will be.
Well, we will move on from this story because it's not really Formula One related, but we will. But we did see this going back in history with James Hunt, who went on, I think it was a TV show called Sports Stars, and wiped the floor with everyone. If you don't know what Sports Stars is, it was basically a competition where they got stars from various sports, so football, rugby, tennis, whatever, and they put them in like situations, agility things, and also made them do sporting things against each other in a competition. And James Hunt went on, and obviously he was a Formula One driver, but he was a heavy drinker, heavy smoker, but he still wiped the floor with everybody, and it just proves that Formula One stars, and I think jockeys as well are another one that are a little bit of an underdog, but they're seriously fit. But we'll move on from that one anyway, and from one team in red in Arsenal to another red team and a determined Ferrari.
Yeah, just quickly before we move on to Ferrari and back to Formula One, the Hamilton versus Henri is going to be shown during the race build-up on Sunday for those who have access to Sky Sports. And for Barcelona, it was pointed out to me that I made a mistake during our review, our preview even. I said it was an anti-clockwise.
You did.
But it is indeed a clockwise circuit. So many of you were probably, or probably not, screaming at me and Daniel for making that
not me.
mistake.
Don't drag me down.
Well,
don't drag me. I mean, I should have noticed
put clockwise, and then I said, "Sorry, Dan, it's meant to say anti-clockwise." But you went with it.
No.
So you're a party too. But anyway, Formula One, which is why you've hopefully tuned in to listen. Arriva Bene has said that Ferrari have proven they can finish on the podium consistently. They aren't just a one-off, one-hit wonder, and that they're going to focus now on just closing that gap to Mercedes. They used the in-season test at Barcelona, which is the week after the Spanish Grand Prix, to see why the upgrades that they brought to Barcelona didn't work as planned. And they've since discovered that the upgrades that they brought did actually work, they just weren't very good for the Barcelona track. So who knows what we're going to see in Monaco onwards.
Yeah.
And they've also said that when they make a mistake politically on track, however, they're going to come out and say that they've made a mistake. They're going to kind of eliminate that blame culture that that Ferrari built up previously under
Jean Todt,
Domenicali, and Sergio Marchionne, was it?
I don't know. I can't remember. He wasn't there very long.
No,
he wasn't there. But anyway, it's good to see that they're going to come and do that. It's an interesting point made about the updates as well, because we were talking to somebody who shall remain nameless, who works for a Formula One team. And I asked him about updates and stuff, and I wondered whether they do have certain updates for certain tracks. I don't think they do. I think they just literally bring an update to a track and just hope it works. But I wonder whether it'd be interesting to see if Formula One teams do lay out certain pieces for certain tracks because they know they're going to work in a certain way. What do you think?
My guess would be yes, that they would do it for a specific track or for the majority of tracks that are left. So whatever's going to give them the best benefit over the long run for the rest of the season. So while the updates Ferrari brought in Spain might not work for Spain, they might work for the majority of the next races to come, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it might be only a handful of races like Spain and Monaco or Abu Dhabi where they might not work, but they work for the rest, and they've given them a good advantage. Yeah,
so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep an eye on Ferrari this weekend. But we'll move on now to another team, and it's Lotus, who are denying some takeover talks.
Yes, it was rumoured not long ago that Renault would be looking into buying another team and ditching Red Bull. One of those named teams was Lotus, along with Toro Rosso and can't remember who else. If there was
Red
anyone
Bull,
else.
Toro Rosso, I don't think there was it?
No, I think it might just be their Lotus and Toro Rosso, but Lotus said no. You're not buying us.
Nah.
So, yeah, they said they won't be bought, and that's kind of all the news that I've found on that so far. So, we'll keep an eye out for that. But Toro Rosso do seem to be the favourite anyway, because France Tost has come out numerous times and said, yeah, we'd love to have Renault. You know, we want to be bought by Renault. We want to be our own team. So, if anything happens in that department, it looks like it will be Toro Rosso that get bought by Renault.
Well, keep an eye on that development. And Benji, if we did sound effects on our podcast, you know, a lot of podcasts have sound effects. If we did sound effects, I would certainly play a hallelujah right now, because it has finally happened. We've been talking this up for a long time. You said it would happen in Barcelona. You were wrong. It went on even longer. But Lewis Hamilton has finally put pen to paper on a 3-year contract. Hallelujah.
Finally. I was only one race off, though, to be fair. I mean,
You were. Well, you were. You weren't even a race off, really, though, to be fair, because it happened before the Monaco Grand Prix, so you were just slightly behind.
yeah, so as you say, Lewis Hamilton put pen to paper this Wednesday on a 3-year deal, which apparently has been worth around, was touted as being £100 million, but we don't know for sure, so I'm not going to speculate at all. We discussed previously that it would be around 25 million a year, but all we know for sure it's going to be 3 years at Mercedes, which will take them through to 2018, and that will also be a partnership that's lasted 20 years between Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes brand. Interestingly as well, is Rosberg's contract runs out the end of 2017, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there, but obviously we'll live in the now for now.
Living the now for now. But it's obviously confirmed that he's not going to go to Ferrari, and he's going to stick with Mercedes when the major changes coming in 2017, which we're going to get into in a moment. But as for the figure, I've seen anything from £25 million a year to £90 million total to £100 million. We don't know. All we know is he's going to get paid a lot of money, and he's already on I think he's the highest paid Formula 1 driver, obviously, but he's on the Times Rich list of sports stars. I think Jenson Button is actually the second. Obviously, he's the second highest British driver, but he's up in the top 10 as well, Jenson Button. But yeah, Hamilton is. He's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot that I wouldn't mind, to be honest. He lives in Monaco, a tax haven. He did this contract himself with his lawyer, so he doesn't have to give a certain percentage to his management. So he's got more money than he did previously. So
do you know what I love about that?
What's that?
Obviously, this contract took ages, and they was talking about all the legal jargon, and there was a lot to read and stuff. But when they showed the pictures of him signing his contract, it was like one piece of paper.
Yes.
If I was Lewis Hamilton, I'd have got the whole document on there and signed it on top and said, "Look, this is why it's taking so long. Because look at this thing. It's huge.
Got War and Peace, and then just put the contract paper on top of that."
Yeah, I'd have milked the fact that this thing is huge, and that's the reason it's taken so long. But no, just one piece of paper.
Maybe why it's a 3-year deal as well is because he doesn't want to have to go through all that that kind of stress again of trying to write his own contract. So maybe that's why it's 3 years as well.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No.
There's no way I'd want to do that. Anyway, thankfully he signed it. We don't have to talk about it anymore until 2018. But next piece of news, Red Bull. Take it away.
Yes, the comments came out from Helmut Marko and Red Bull saying that Red Bull are going to quit unless Audi buy them or they can't find another engine supplier. Horner had written off this season, which no one had touted them for the championship anyway, so why he came out and said that was pointless anyway. But then Helmut Marko came out later and said that he didn't say those things about Audi buying them and they'd quit unless they buy them, so it's another just pointless story to go on top of this kind of thread. So and Audi have said that F1 is a longer term option anyway. At the moment they're not looking at joining, and So it's come to nothing really.
No, yeah, it's come to nothing. We'll watch with interest, but it might come a point where we have to ban talking about this on the podcast because until it happens, nothing's happening. Effectively, to sound stupid, but until someone has said we are going to buy this, the same with Toro Rosso, it's just speculation. And Christian Horner's obviously had other things on his mind, walking down the aisle with Jerry Halliwell. So, but it's good to see him happy and smiling and not whinging. But and we always knew that he was going to write this season off because they've done nothing this year. So, the end of the season really for Red Bull. We'll see how competitive they try and get towards the end of the year, and we'll see what happens with Audi. But until someone says yes, we're definitely going to buy them, then it's just a nothing story really. Moving on to sort of the now and some engine regulation changes, Spenge.
Yes, so obviously at the moment, each team gets 4 penalty-free power units per season that they can use. Teams then thought, well, when I say teams, I mean Red Bull, said, let's have a 5th one because we can't look after our other 4 that we have, even though everyone else is. So they said, yeah, let's introduce a 5th one because that'll be cool and that'll be cost effective and that will cut costs.
How can we save money? Another engine. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Mercedes said, yeah, sure, as long as it leads to more Friday running. So it looked inevitable that there was going to be a 5th penalty-free engines, but no, they're not. The strategy group then said, no, we don't really want it, to be honest.
Good.
So it's just sticking to 4.
And we're going to get into the regulation changes in a minute, but there was this whole thing about we need to save money in F1. F1's getting out of hand. We saw Caterham disappear, Marussia struggling. We had a few years in the 2000s where teams were just coming and going, getting bought out left, right, and centre at the back of the grid. So they said, well, we need to save money. So teams are coming along now saying, yeah, let's have 5 penalty-free engines. Well, no, because all that's going to happen is the big teams will gallop off and be able to afford this thing. And the smaller teams at the back, the minnows, will just disappear, and we'll end up with just the 4 biggest teams on the track. So I'm glad they said no.
And how long before a 5th power unit became a 6th?
Yeah, precisely. And I don't know where Ferrari. I mean, obviously, Ferrari aren't financially brilliant. A lot of their money coming through from Fiat, who aren't financially brilliant. So, but they are. I think they are backed by the government somewhat, aren't they? So
but they're probably the richest or the second richest team. I think they've spent about 100 million on just development, which is all of Williams' budget.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I think that's sort of through shady dealings. I think, for want of a better term. I don't think
you said it. That wasn't anyone who's listening. It's part of Ferrari.
I went there.
That was Daniel Herrick saying that. Please don't
there.
come to my house if you know where I live.
I went there. But anyway, we'll move on before some shadowy Ferrari figures come looming down and take me away to the next piece of news and a free tyre choice. You get to choose your tyres, Bench.
Yeah, so we're getting nearer and nearer to the new rules and regulation changes for 2017. But a regulation change for next year that's been rumoured and suggested is that teams next season will be able to choose which tyre compounds they take to each race. So at the moment, Pirelli say you've got obviously the intermediates and wets, which are compulsory anyway, but you get the medium and the soft, or the medium and the hard, or the soft and the super soft. Any of those 2 combinations, that's what you're going to have and that's what you're going to use, no debates. Now teams are saying, why can't we choose what we want? So you could go extreme and say, we'll have the super soft and we'll take the hard. They wouldn't do that, but that's just an example of what they could do. This is an idea that's originated from Bob Fernley at Force India. Pirelli have obviously come out and said they don't like it through safety concerns, but to be honest, I don't think it would change anything. I think teams would still take the same tyre compounds that Pirelli would issue anyway, so it's a rule change, but nothing would change. I don't think.
No team in their right mind is going to go, so we'll take the super softs and we'll have the hard compound as well, please. We want those 2 extremes, please. We'll have will have those two. It doesn't make sense unless what they're going to do is, and I know they're not going to do this for 2016, but in the future, I think they're perhaps talking about scrapping the whole. You have to have one of each compound.
Yes.
You have to have used one in the race. So maybe there comes a time where they just go, right, all 4 compounds to the race. Just use which ones you want. So if you want to use the super soft and then the medium, or the soft and then the hard, or whatever, you can use whichever ones you want. So I think that's the sort of the road we're going down.
Force India have said that they'd like it to start at Spa this season, even. So, I mean, Paul Hembry, who's the head of Pirelli Motorsport, has said that it would be a financial and logistical nightmare because of the air freight would have to be used instead of sea freight, which is used at the moment. So they're finding nothing really much to change the sport. They've got all these big ideas, which we'll get to in a second, that they can change Formula 1, but they're stuck on just agreeing to free tyre choice and helmet design.
Yeah, helmet design is a huge one.
Yes, that has changed the sport significantly this season.
I know who Vettel is now.
Yes.
That's about it. So let's move on to those 2017 regulations. There's a whole raft of regulations that are proposed for 2017. We must stress that none of these have been confirmed yet. I think the main one that stands out to everybody is refueling. Now, when I've said about this reintroduction of refueling, I say it's the main one that stands out, but it tends to be when I've read people's comments on it, tweets and Facebook, that yes, it's the main one that stands out, but it's the one that people are not really fussed about. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I haven't really made my mind up yet on refueling. Now, obviously, it was taken away from the sport for a reason. So the last season that had refueling during a race was 2009. It was taken away because of financial and safety reasons. But there's mixed reviews and opinions in Formula 1. Teams are saying it didn't add anything to the race. It just made pit stops longer. It cost drivers a lot more. Felipe Massa even lost the World Championship, arguably, in 2008 at Singapore when he drove away with a fuel hose. And then drivers have come out and said, yeah, we like it. We want to try it and do it again. It added a new dimension, a new drama to it. So let's go for it. So I'm torn at the moment. I think it would be a bad idea, mainly because the quick pit stops that we have now, so around 2 seconds, add more drama, and it means that less time is spent in the pits and more time is spent on track. I don't see how they're going to get around the safety issues that much.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I wrote a post on our website, fivelightspodcast.com, and it has a little poll at the end asking you, do you want to see refueling come back? Not specifically you, Ben, but the listeners. Do you want to see refueling return to F1? And in that post, I sort of laid out my cards on the table and where I stand on it. And I'm against it personally, and I'm strongly against refueling coming back for numerous reasons, as you've alluded to there. One being time spent in the pits. We want to see cars out on the track racing. We don't want to see cars standing still. Another issue is Bernie Ecclestone a few weeks ago was saying that commentators are making the sport too complicated and making it too technical. Well, if you bring back refueling and then you've got to discuss all those strategies, yes, for the die-hard F1 fan it's going to be interesting, but if you're trying to introduce new fans to the sport and they've got to get their head around yet another technical aspect like the fuel strategy and when they're going to stop and all that, you're going to turn people off. Yes, they do it in other forms of motorsport. We see refueling in IndyCar and other forms of motorsport as well, but the biggest thing that stands out is the safety issue. And I was going to write an article, as I alluded to in the last podcast, about the marshals after a couple of marshals came into incidents at the Spanish Grand Prix. I was beaten to it by the BBC because I've been busy this week, so I've decided not to, but we will share that post. And in that, it was talking about mechanics, F1 mechanics as heroes in the garage. And the incidents that they've been involved with in the years, and the majority of incidents that mechanics get injured in are refueling incidents. When Jos Verstappen's car went up in flames in Hockenheim, it was the mechanics that got burns. When Massa pulled away, the hose was ripped out and took out a mechanic. Schumacher's driven away with the fuel hose attached and broke a mechanic's ankle. And there's a load of refueling incidents that have happened, and mechanics have got hurt. Now, a couple of years ago, they banned cameramen and TV crews from being in the pit lane because of the tyre bouncing down. So, if you reintroduce refueling, then all you're doing is adding another aspect of danger to the mechanics. I don't think it adds anything. I think it will make it more complicated, and I think it's just dangerous. So that's where I stand on it. But let us know what you think. Head over to fivelightspodcast.com. The post is pinned to the top of the homepage. You'll see it there, and just vote. Or you can tweet us with the hashtag FuelYes, Fuel No. As I said, that was the main one that came out, that stood out, but there's a whole raft of ones here. So I'm just going to read down them, Ben, the ones that you've listed here, and then you can just take it away and rip on them and let me know what you think. So these are the ones that Ben's listed here for me. So make aesthetics more aggressive, make starts more down to driver. They want to make cars 6 seconds per lap quicker. They want wider tyres with 18-inch rims, reduction in car weight, a V6 hybrid technology to remain due to cost of initial change, 1,000 brake horsepower cars, global reflection on format of race weekends, so omit Friday practice. I'll let you explain that one in a little bit more detail, Ben. Big teams to carry out feasibility studies for customer cars. Changes have to clear 2 further governance hurdles before finalised. I swear these aren't coming in for definite yet. They've got to go through 2 lots of governance first. So let's go through those, Ben. Those changes. Just sort of elaborate on the global reflection on format of race weekends.
I didn't understand it at first, but when I read more into it and it was explained by people in F1, it did mean that they were going to reorganise the schedule of a Formula 1 weekend, and it was talk of omitting Friday practice. Now, every single thing that was mentioned as a potential regulation for 2017, this was the one I was most against, getting rid of Friday practice.
Yeah.
Because as someone who is a hardcore Formula 1 fan and an attendee of Silverstone every year, that's reducing my weekend, it's reducing track time, it's reducing the amount of time, therefore, that fans can go and see a car racing around a track. It just means that it's just qualifying or one hour practice session, an hour qualifying, and then an hour and a half race. That's just not enough. So I was dead against that, and hopefully that's just a wild speculation rather than a major part of the pipeline.
I can't see them doing it. It would reduce TV revenues. As you said, fans would be up in arms because they're not going to see the cars. It would reduce track times. Tracks would lose money as well, so circuits would lose cash. I can't see them doing that. Making aesthetics more aggressive, Ben. I said when we read down these changes, as you said, it tends to be a lot of wishy-washy changes rather than anything significant. Obviously, they said they want to make cars 6 seconds a lap quicker, which would be great. The faster cars, the better. But make aesthetics more aggressive? I don't see what that adds, really. I think they want to go back to the sort of 2008 style of, where it was shark fins everywhere and everything looked spiky and Mad Max-esque. But yeah. I like the cars the way they are now.
Ferrari published a concept car a month or 2 back of a possible Formula 1 car of the future. I don't know how many people saw it. I'm sure it's on their website somewhere. And it was just an aggressive, futuristic-looking Formula 1 car that looked quite... it looked like it was bound for space rather than a racetrack. But that's what they mean, is just adding something that's more aggressive, that's going to make it quicker and make it look cooler for probably a younger audience, is what this is aimed at. And it's also to try and help speed up the cars to get, as you said, that 6 seconds a lap quicker. I think that 6 seconds a lap quicker, I don't think is tied to refueling either. So I think that the 6 seconds would be there with refueling or no refueling.
I think that's going to come through the wider tyres and the, as you say, the aerodynamic changes and the the weight change and the 1,000 brake horsepower. I think they're trying to build up to the 6 seconds a lap quicker.
I'm in favour of the 6 seconds a lap quicker. I would like to see Formula 1 cars being the fastest cars in motorsport. It's disappointing to see that when you watch qualifying now, you see, oh, this is what they're going to do this year. And then you look at the fastest lap time, and there's some 2 or 3 seconds off. And you're thinking, that's not Formula 1. Formula 1, as said hundreds of times, is the pinnacle of motorsport. It should always be the fastest that it can be, and not just slow, because drivers want it as well. So if the drivers want it, then I'm all for it. It's going to be quicker. It can mean better overtaking, better on-track action, and more drama as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in favour of faster cars. I'm in favour as long as it's safe.
Yes.
So we've seen cars, even recently at an endurance race in the Nürburgring where a car got airborne. We don't want to see cars getting airborne and becoming dangerous. There are a few reasons we watch Formula 1, and yes, crashing may be part of that because it's a danger aspect to it. But we want to see cars go fast, but we want to see cars go fast, safe, and we want them to be... what we really want is wheel-to-wheel racing, sorry. I think if the cars were as fast as they are now, but it was wheel-to-wheel racing, I don't think anybody would care how fast the cars are. But there's a survey has been released as well. So if you're like us and you want to have your say, have you already filled this one in, Benj, the Autosport one?
I've done both.
Oh, I've only done the one. I've only seen the GPDA one. But the F1 magazine, Autosport magazine, and Motorsport News have released a F1 fans survey. We've shared it on our Facebook and Twitter pages. We're going to share it again, but you can go there and have your say on how you think Formula 1 should go in the future. And the Grand Prix Drivers Association have also released a survey for fans, and that's in association with Bernie, so Bernie's given it his full support as well. So you can go there, and we'll share that link out as well. It's www.gpda.motorsport.com. So if you head over there, you can also fill in that survey and have your say. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do the Autosport one, the F1 magazine one. Some in-depth questions there. You can there's some sort of yes/no answers, and then you can fill some boxes in and stuff. But you can have your say on how you think Formula 1 should go in the future. I think yes, we want faster cars, but mainly we want wheel-to-wheel racing. We want to see that fight back. We want to see, like a few years ago when there was 5 drivers fighting for the title and close title races, and that's what we want to see, innit?
Definitely, that's what racing's all about, is overtaking, the best driver winning, and it's being evident who is the best driver, not because they're just in the best car, which is what people who don't follow Formula 1 just associate with. He's winning because he's got the fastest car, and the same guy keeps winning, what's the point? So F1 needs to be more like it, as you say, like it was in 2012 when there was 6 or 7 different winners in the first 7 races.
Yeah.
So that's what it needs to be like, and never knowing who's going to win and who's going to win the title.
That's what we want. Bring that back. And we will get there, and F1 will get there, and we still love the sport, but it's great that they've released these 2 surveys and that you can have your say. So head over and have your say. As I say, we will share it in the podcast notes as well, where you can go to do that. So Ben, anything else to say on the news?
Just quickly on 2017 regulation changes. Formula 1 has officially opened the tender process for the tyre manufacturers. Deadline for tender submission is June the 15th this year, obviously. And the contract for whoever wins will run from 2017 to 2019. A lot of people, mostly teams, are hoping that Michelin, who were in Formula 1 previously, they hope that they come back because they provided durable tyres that lasted the whole race, and therefore drivers didn't have to worry about conserving their tyres. And I have an interesting point on this. It never really occurred to me or hit me when I had a conversation with someone during the week. Now, I had car trouble during the week, and I had to get a lift from the mechanic at the garage, and on the way to dropping me off for my car, we were talking about Formula 1, and because I mentioned Silverstone, and he said that he used to follow it, I used to follow it, when like Jensen Button and all that were winning. And he said, I don't follow it now, I don't like it anymore because of you have to conserve your tyres, conserve your fuel. He says that's what we do on the roads. That's not what Formula One's about. You should be flat out from start to finish, fastest and best driver wins. And I knew about it, and we'd obviously discussed it before, but it never really hit home until someone else who doesn't follow Formula One anymore said it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense, and I agree with that. That's what we do on the roads. My defence for Pirelli, though, is they've only done what they've been asked to do.
Yes.
They've not sort of done anything they shouldn't have done. They were asked to make a tyre that would make racing entertaining and would not be as durable as previous. So they've done that. So I think if Pirelli were to lose the contract, I would feel a bit sad for them because they've only done what they've been asked to do, and they've been a good tyre manufacturer.
Well, they've done a good job of doing it, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had a few issues a few years ago when they had those massive punctures, but other than that, I think they've done a stellar job. But it'd be interesting to see who comes back in, and maybe in a couple of years' time, when these 2017 regulations come in, maybe we will go back to 2 tyre manufacturers. I've heard that been ushered as well and rumoured in the last couple of weeks. Well, so who knows?
Michelin have said that they're only going to tender for hard, durable 18-inch rim tyres that they provided before, which Bernie says he doesn't like, and he prefers Pirelli because of the commercial aspect that comes with them. They sponsor the obviously some of the racetracks, and their name is plastered everywhere. So Bernie's more in favour of that. So it most likely will be Pirelli that remain the tyre manufacturer. But I know I'd said that was the final point, but it was actually the penultimate.
Lies.
I'm sorry.
Always with the lies, man.
Horner said at Monaco this weekend that with the discussions that the strategy group, FOM, and the teams have been having for the 2017 regulation changes, he said that more power should be given to the FIA and FOM. The team shouldn't. I've said this before, not to toot my own horn, but I've said this before. Thank you very much. That was very good, actually.
Thanks.
Teams should not be refereeing their own sport. And it was made by Martin Brundle. You wouldn't see a football match where 2 teams were playing. So say you've got Manchester United versus Manchester City. You wouldn't get Man United or Man City refereeing that game.
No,
you would have an independent person, a referee, who is acting on behalf of the Football Association to referee and uphold the laws and regulations of the sport, which is what the FIA and FOM should be doing, not the teams. The teams should be told what way Formula 1 is going, not the teams saying where it's going. And that's what we've been trying to get across for months and months now.
That is true, but it's a little bit ironic that it's come from him.
Yes.
I'll put that out there. But and we've said that before. And
again,
we agree with
no
that
comment.
Point. No comment. Well, I'm taking everyone down today. Everyone's coming down. I've had a rough week. It's been a rough week. So, anything else for the news, Benji? You got any more final points?
That was the final point.
That's final.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fine. You're entitled to that. So we'll move on. We'll move on now. That was the news. There was loads to get to. We should have really done an interim podcast. We could do a whole podcast on the 2017 regulations, but we've not done that. We're moving on. Moving on up. To the Monaco Grand Prix, which is this weekend. It started yesterday, Thursday, because they have a national holiday on the Friday, so they always start a day early. Now, if you want to go to the next Grand Prix, which is in Canada, is that right, Ben? That is
correct.
It's Montreal next. With our friends over in the Flat Out Fever podcast, you can head over to our website, fivelightspodcast.com, and you will see at the top the 2015 calendar tab. If you tick on that, that's not right. If you click on that, you will see the calendar for the 2015 season, and if you click on any race that's left this season, you can buy tickets. You can still buy tickets to Monaco if you want to, but you can buy tickets to any race this season thanks to our friends over at Book F1. So thanks to them. You can also get experience days. So if you've got a family birthday or a friend's birthday coming up and you're thinking, what do I get them? It's so hard to buy presents for people. Tell me about it, because it's difficult for me to buy presents for my fiance. It's really hard. So head over to our website, click on the experience days tab, and boom, there's a whole world of presents right there. Boom. And also, if you like MotoGP, you can get MotoGP tickets. Click on the banners that are adorning our lovely website, and they will take you to bookf1.com, and you can get tickets to anything, pretty much. Well, not anything, that's not right, but MotoGP, Formula 1, and some awesome experience days. Right, Benj, should we move on to the Monaco Grand Prix?
Yep.
Let's do it. We've got a lot to say about the Monaco Grand Prix, but we'll try and condense it if we can.
And make it
so
positive.
The Monaco, well, we're going to be positive. So the Monaco Grand Prix started yesterday, and it runs to the 24th of May. Its official name is the Circuit de Monaco, and its length is 3.337 kilometres, or 2.075 miles. It is clockwise.
Hey.
It is clockwise, this one. Yes, 78 laps, so that's a total of 260.519 kilometres, or 161.879 miles. The tyre compounds for this weekend are the soft, which is the yellow ring tyre, and the super soft, which is the red ring. 19 turns, 1 DRS zone. I'm surprised they've even got that, to be honest, which is on the pit straight. Qualifying is at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, so that's 1 p.m. UK time, and the race is also at 1 p.m. as well. The weather, it wasn't this yesterday, but it's going to be a hot and dry weekend apparently, but it was absolutely torrential yesterday. Not much running done at all. The driver steward is Tom Christensen. The likelihood of a safety car, 80%. So, yeah, it's pretty certain there's going to be a safety car, especially if it was weather like it was yesterday. 28 out of the 61 races have been won from pole, so nearly 50%. The last 10 out of the 11 races have been won from pole, nearly 100%. Ridiculous. Qualifying is essential due to difficult overtaking opportunities. Soft suspension, so tyres remain in contact with the circuit over bumps. Swimming pool corner barriers moved further from the apex this year. Slowest race of the year. Low tyre wear due to low speeds and track surface, and it's a one-stop race strategy. So, the Monaco Grand Prix bench. Where do we begin? Let's begin with the times from yesterday, shall we? Some limited running done yesterday, but Lewis Hamilton tops the timing charts, and he's looking good after his contract signing.
Yes, he looked on it, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Was all over it. He was even overtaking Rosberg at one point. Rosberg, on the other hand, didn't look so good, and he had a little bump, shall we say?
A little bump. Another guy who was looking good, who was a bit of a surprise, young Max Verstappen. It's the first time he's ever gone round this circuit, and getting up into second place there. I think he's even said that he's looking at a top 5 qualifying this weekend. What do you think of that?
Well, that sounds about right, considering I've just, got rid of Toro Rosso from my fantasy last week. So, yeah, that sounds about right. But no, yeah, impressive from him, considering he's never driven it before, and it's Monaco, so it's not easy, and there's no room for mistakes. So, he's something special.
He is something very special. And this race is special as well. We're going to talk about it a bit more in depth in a moment, but it is a special race. It's really up there with the sort of Indy 500 and Le Mans 24 hour, that whole sort of thing. If you win Monaco, you go into like a miniature hall of fame, and it's one the drivers all want to win. It's all the drivers talk about all year. It's an iconic Grand Prix. Who do you think is best suited at the minute to qualify pole tomorrow?
Lewis Hamilton or Nico Rosberg? I would like to say Lewis Hamilton. He does seem on it this week, but the rain did catch everyone out in FP2 yesterday, so it'll have to be seen what happens tomorrow in FP3 to really gauge who's going to do anything in qualifying. But it's going to be one of the Mercedes drivers, I believe, unless, because it's happened before, drivers struggle in Q1 to get a decent lap time in, because it's such a short circuit and there's not enough time and there's always not enough of a gap to put in a fast lap. Drivers can get caught out and get eliminated quite easily.
They can do indeed. It's one of those tracks where every lap counts. Literally every lap counts. Even like your in laps and your out laps. Because if you crash on one of them, you're stuffed. It's so easy to make a mistake round here. It's so easy to park your car. There's loads of parking spaces. There's one on the penultimate corner which Michael Schumacher found a few years ago, and there's one around just before the hairpin which Rosberg found last year. Isn't it right, Ben? There's loads of parking opportunities around here.
Yes, a lot of people were trying to park up by the chapel as well this on Thursday. Just at the first corner, there's a little chapel. People were just going straight on. I don't know if they got confused, but everyone was going straight on there, and then towards FP2, teams were Well, drivers were going straight on at Mirabeau, I think it's Mirabeau, which you mentioned, where Rosberg had his little trip last year.
Yeah.
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, and they've both said there's going to be no funny business this year. This year. I think Hamilton is pretty good for this one. He's just signed his new contract. He's looking fresh. We'll get into our predictions in a minute, but let's talk about the Monaco Grand Prix, Benj, as a circuit. It is one of the highlights of the year. We, as a family, have driven round it once. I think
backwards?
our last time, backwards. Yeah,
Although the car was going backwards.
No, we drove around counterclockwise, not clockwise. And I think our lap time was around about 12 minutes, so not as quick as these guys are going around. It has some amazing aspects to the circuit. The tunnel is fantastic for the noise, going down to the chicane, and then you've got that hugely quick left-right at the swimming pool, which is amazing to watch, absolutely incredible to watch. I think our main issue, though, is it a race circuit?
Nope.
No, it's not, is it? It's not. It's just not. It's just missing one thing, and that's racing, isn't it?
Yes. In the fan surveys that we mentioned earlier, there was a question on this survey published by the Grand Prix Drivers Association that said, which of the following circuits do you think should be, compulsory on the calendar? And it listed all the ones on the current calendar and ones previous, like Argentina and France, etc. And I did not tick Monaco. I would be more than happy if Monaco wasn't on the calendar because it doesn't provide any racing. Last season there was only 7 overtakes, whereas the average last season was around 30 overtakes on other tracks. Where you qualify is more or less where you finish. It's just, people say, it's Monaco, it's great, it's an amazing spectacle, and people were tweeting in during practice to Sky Sports F1 to David Croft saying, it's rubbish, I don't like it, I don't want to go, it's too expensive, it shouldn't be on the calendar for like we're saying, or I'm saying at least. And then the pundits were coming back and saying, you've got to come and experience it. But UK, you might be close to the cars, it's a beautiful place, it's an expensive place, but what does that mean for racing? I'd much go to Silverstone 100 times than to go to Monaco once.
Yeah, we've been there, not on holiday to there. We visited there while we were on holiday, and it is a beautiful place. And it is sort of the crown jewel in the F1 season because of the glamour that it brings and the money that it brings in. And it's got a lot of history there. There's been races there. You say there's 60-odd races been there. It has that history and that heritage, and the drivers want to win it so bad. I can't ever see it leaving the calendar.
No.
I think the problem with it is, as you say, there is no opportunity for overtaking. The things you look out for at Monaco are the qualifying, and if there's going to be a crash in the race. And unfortunately, when there is a crash at Monaco, they're not small crashes. Perez, I think, was it a couple of years ago? It wasn't last year, was it? Was it a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago, he had a huge accident where he actually missed the race after coming out of the tunnel and effectively going straight on. There was a GP2 crash there as well a couple of years ago where someone came out of the tunnel and got airborne, and he was extremely lucky to get out of there. They've had people crash into the swimming pool before, into the harbour. It is a dangerous circuit. It's not as dangerous as the Nürburgring, and it adds another element to the spectacle, but I think we all, as we said about the GP survey, the race fan survey, we all want to see racing. We want to see wheel-to-wheel action. Do we really want to see a glamorous procession of cars? I mean, it's a great thing to show the cars off. It's a great way of showing them off what they can do speed-wise, cornering, and how good they look. But it's a bit of a cash cow and a bit of a sort of a beauty pageant rather than an actual race. Would you agree?
Definitely. I spoke to a colleague at work today. I said that I'll be watching the Grand Prix this weekend, and he doesn't follow Formula 1. He said, and he admitted so. I said, I don't follow Formula 1, but I know that's a boring race, and there's going to be no one overtaking. And I said, yep, you're absolutely right. I said, I bet there's only one place for overtaking, and really there is only one main place for overtaking, which was coming out of the tunnel.
Mm.
Other than that, you kind of pull in a desperate move or an aggressive move. And if there is an accident during the race or qualifying, that either means a yellow flag or a red flag, or should I say a yellow flag and a safety car or a red flag.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good spectacle. I'm actually looking forward to the race. I know we're talking down there. I am looking forward to the race, and I am looking forward to the spectacle. And you do watch it and think, well, if there's a crash here, this could mix the whole thing up. We saw, was it 2008 when Hamilton won the championship, when it was a rainy Monaco, and he got that puncture, and luckily there was a safety car at the same time, because I think Coulthard crashed climbing the hill, but there are different aspects of the race which make it different to anywhere else, and it will never leave because it is the iconic Formula One race. I just wish there was a little bit more opportunity for overtaking. But we will never see that, so we'll just have to make do with it. And let's go through our predictions then, Ben. We have got something coming up regarding a circuit. We have complained about this circuit, and probably some of you are listening going, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Well, we are doing something about it, and that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got a very exciting project that we're working on, me and Ben, so we'll keep you updated with that. But let's make our predictions, Ben, for this weekend, for the Monaco Grand Prix. We've got qualifying tomorrow, 1 p.m. GMT. Who do you think is going to qualify on pole position?
Lewis Hamilton, he's, as we've said, he looks on form after signing his contract, and I think more than he wants Rosberg not to win 3 times in a row, more than he actually wants to win the race.
Yeah.
So that's my reason behind getting pole.
Yeah, I mean as I said, it's the jewel in the crown of the Formula One season, and I think deep down, when he looks back on his championship-winning season last year, he'll be disappointed that he didn't win this one. It wasn't in his collection, so I think he's going to want this one bad.
Yes.
He's just signed the 3-year contract. He's going to want to win this one bad. He's going to want to get revenge on Rosberg for last year, although they're sort of dismissing it. It's rubbish. They're not dismissing this one. Hamilton wants revenge. Rosberg wants it too, but I'm also picking Hamilton to get pole position. So that must mean then, Benj, that you've picked him to win like I have as well.
No, I've actually got Maldonado to win it.
Well, there you go. So that's the end of the podcast. Maldonado will win the Monaco. No, come on.
Yes, I've got Lewis Hamilton to win the Grand Prix.
Ah, well, there we go. I've got Rosberg second. I think the Mercedes will dominate here, speed-wise. As you say, it's qualifying is all important. So if Rosberg manages to cross the line on Saturday, second place, I think he will get second place. Do you concur?
Yes.
Brilliant. And third place then, Benji. I've got Sebastian Vettel for third place. I think he'll out-qualify Raikkonen. Raikkonen struggled yesterday in practice. He tends to struggle on Saturday, as we've seen earlier in the season, and this is not a place you want to struggle in qualifying.
No, I've got Vettel as well. Raikkonen is good round here, but he's struggling on Saturdays. But yeah. I do have Raikkonen for the fastest lap.
Wow. Okay, Raikkonen for the fastest lap then. I've got Hamilton for the fastest lap to come round here. I think he's going to want to take all the accolades and wipe the floor with everybody. So I've got Hamilton. Safety cars though, Benj. I've got 2.
Okay, this is getting creepy now because I've also got 2.
Well, I've literally just picked mine.
Oh,
so
okay.
And I've not copied you. We've not talked about this beforehand. So I've got 2. But I think that's a fairly safe bet. You tend to get one within the first 20 laps, then you tend to get one towards the end. What I don't want to see this time is what we've seen happen so many times before, and we saw it happen with Vettel a few years ago, where he was out front, his tyres were going off, he was struggling, and then a safety car came out and saved him. We don't want that to happen again. What we want is, if there's going to be a race here, let's make it close. Let's make it so it is wheel to wheel or nose to tail. Let's get them really close, and let's not have too many safety cars. But I think 2 is a fairly safe bet.
Yeah, I was owning and about 1, but I thought there's going to be 2.
Is a technical term for thinking there.
Yep.
Bold predictions, Benj. Have you got any bold predictions for this weekend?
I have 2 this week.
Bah! Boom! Go on then, give us your first one and I'll go.
So, contradicted to what we've just said, my bold prediction number 1 for Monaco, the 2015 Grand Prix, is there will be no safety car.
No, even though he's picked 2.
Hedge your bets, my friends. Hedge your bets.
No safety cars.
There will be no safety car.
Wow. Well, it has happened before. It has happened before. We've seen no safety car. So, wow, no safety cars bench. That's a good one. Well, my one is... Here we go. You ready?
Drum roll.
Pastor Maldonado will finish in the
In
top...
the harbour.
No. No. He's not Kimi Raikkonen. He's not going to finish and then clear off to his yacht. Pastor Maldonado will finish in the top 5.
Wow. Of where?
He will... No, in the top 5 of the... He will finish in the top 5. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He looked fairly... I mean, Lotus looks strong. And he has looked pretty good. Now, if he can keep the thing in between the barriers, I think he will finish in the top 5. He's been unlucky this year, let's face it.
True. He was actually the only one brave enough to go out in the rain.
He was.
He did come out and say during FP2, it's too wet.
He strapped his balls on and went out and then went, you know what, this was a mistake.
They did then show the Lotus mechanics in the garage while he was out there on his own, and they were just pointing at the screen and laughing.
Look at this guy.
Whether that was to do with Maldonado or not, I'm not sure. It probably wouldn't be, but
maybe before he went out, they went, yeah, it's they like stuck their hand out the garage and went, yeah, it's dry now. It's no rain at all.
What they did is they stuck a picture on his visor, so it was really sunny. And then when he tore the visor off and he was going to the pit lane, he saw it was pissing it down rain.
Wait a minute. Yeah, what crazy man. So what's your second bold prediction then, Benj?
There will be more than 10 overtakes.
Wow. So there'll be more than 10 overtakes. Okay,
and
so
no safety car.
No safety car and more than 10 overtakes. Okay. My second bold prediction, look, we've got 2 of everything here. We've got 2 of everything. Only 10 cars will finish.
Only 10 cars.
Only 10 cars.
Maldonado will be in the top 5.
And yeah, see...
That's why he's in the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, only 10 cars will finish. Only 10. So yeah, pick your top 10. There we go. So that's the Monaco Grand Prix. That's our predictions for the Monaco Grand Prix. Thanks to Badger GP. Now, we have a Badger GP League. You can still join our Badger GP Fantasy League. Just head over to badgergp.com. Excuse me, or download the app, which you can do via the App Store and the Android Store, and search for our league. It's the 5 Lights League, and I will now find you the code. Bear with me 2 seconds here as
while you're doing that, I will just fill in some news that's come through this weekend. Practice 1, Jensen had his ERS issue, so he wasn't running for about 45 minutes. So his bad luck didn't seem to find an end. Kimi Raikkonen has gone to the new updates that will run in Barcelona, so he's running them. And there is a 5-place grid penalty for Romain Grosjean. No surprise, he's in my fantasy team, because he's had a gearbox change. We mentioned on our review of Barcelona on our last podcast that he was defiant in not using 4th gear last time round, but that's cost him, and he's had to change gearbox and incurred a 5-place grid penalty. And Helmut Marko has been trying to give Daniel Kvyat a wake-up call because he's not doing a very good job, apparently.
Well, Kvyat's come out and said that he thinks he's doing a good job, so not on the same page there. Not on the same page.
Well, he has got more points at this stage than he did last year.
But he's in a faster car, though.
Not
reliable.
No,
not really. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. But I think he's struggling. I think Helmut Marko's right to give him a bit of a boot up the backside, because it's all right driving for Toro Rosso and maybe getting the same amount of points. But when you step up to the big leagues and you're in the Red Bull team, you really need to bring your A game, considering the calibre of driver they've had before. So
I mean, I would be nervous with Verstappen in the lower league team looking to take my place. I would be sweating buckets. But lastly, for news in FP2, because it rained so much, teams are being allowed to carry 1 set of slick tyres into FP3. So if you're up early and you haven't got anything planned tomorrow, I would suggest watching FP3, because there will be a lot of running. And
there will be a lot.
Well, driving.
There will be. Well, yeah. Unless there's going to be a marathon, there'll be a lot of driving. So our 5 Lights League, I found it. The passcode for the 5 Lights League, and that's with the number 5, not the word 5, is 459062. 2. You can find that on our website, fivelightspodcast.com. It's on the left-hand side, on the sidebar there. Currently, Benjamin is top with 700 points, with Flat Out Fever Dan now in second place, 40 points adrift. So look how quickly that's flipped and turned. And I'm still in third place with 652. So even I'm catching Dan now. So, yeah. I've managed to get a little bit of a break from Jenny, who was catching me there for a while, but I've managed to bridge the gap, and that means also that Ben is top of the Flat Out Fever League, which is awesome, and I'm still in third. So we're looking like we're the dominant podcast, Ben, which is great.
Yes, in more ways than one, though.
In more ways than one, of course. A little bit of competitiveness there. That's great. I like to see that. So, Monaco Grand Prix, Benj, we'll just sum up. I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be a better Grand Prix, but I'm still looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to every race, regardless of where it is. Enjoy, get up and watch it anyway. It's going to be a good race. There's always that chance of a crash or maybe even some rain, and it'd be interesting to see what happens between Rosberg and Hamilton. I know they said they're not going to do anything controversial this year, but who knows what will happen and goes on in their head.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some bad blood there, and I think Lewis Hamilton is out for revenge. It'll be interesting to see if there's any more parking spaces that the drivers can find this weekend. But that's the Monaco Grand Prix. So 1 p.m. is the qualifying on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and 1 p.m. for the race on Sunday. So look forward to it. It's going to be a great race. That's our build-up to that is wrapped up now. We've got a few more little tidying up things to do before we leave. We are launching a newsletter which you'll be able to sign up to in the next couple of days. There's going to be something going on our website which you can sign up to. In that, there will be the latest podcast which you can listen to. There will be the latest blog posts, so Ben's takeaway, Dan's takeaway and Ben's biting point.
Amalgamation of the two.
Amalgamation there. So it has been such a long week. Ben's biting point and Dan's takeaway will be on there, and some other podcasting notey bits as well. There'll also be links to other news stories that we've been reading and found interesting this week, and some extra behind-the-scenes stuff, which you'll only get on the newsletter. So once that's up over the next couple of days, keep an eye on the website. You can sign up and get the podcast direct to your inbox. Also, remember to go to the website and look at our calendar, so you can get tickets through Book F1, and go to bensound.com to get music for all your multimedia needs. You can also listen to other podcasts, the Flat Out Fever podcast, our friends over in Toronto, who must be getting really excited now. Only a week to go, or 2 weeks to go until the Canadian Grand Prix, Bench.
Yeah, and that's a good one as well.
It is a good one. They'll be looking forward to that one. They've just released another one. As I said, not this podcast they've just released, the one before. Listen to it in your car, because they play the audio from the Lotus filming day, and it has the old Lotus 72. Just drive along to that. It is bliss, absolute bliss. There's also our friends over at the On The Limit podcast, and you can follow them on Twitter as well at On The Limit 77. So, Benj, anything else before we wrap up and take away?
If you love Formula One, and you must do if you're listening to this podcast, please go take part in either or both of those surveys, because if you love Formula One and you want to give your 10 pence worth about what F1 should do, then that's the best way to do it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Right, we'll finish then with a quote from the Murray Walker Bible that I now read on a nightly basis. I'll just have a flick through and I'll pick one out at random today. I've not picked one particularly. Just tell me when to stop, Benj.
Stop.
Okay. Right. Here we go. Frentzen is reducing the gap between Frentzen and himself.
That is the skill.
Oh dear. Well, what a guy Murray Walker was. So, that's it for the Five Lights podcast, episode 15. In the next podcast, which will be on Sunday, we will be breaking down the Monaco Grand Prix, the winners, the losers, and also we might have a little bit of news for you about a project we're working on. But that'll be on Sunday in episode 16 of the Five Lights podcast. I've been your host, Daniel Herrick. He's been your co-host, Ben Herrick.
Hi everyone. Bye everyone.
That didn't really work. I should have thrown it to you a little bit more. So that's the end of episode 16 of the Five Lights podcast. Thanks for listening. The Five Lights have gone out.